This dwelling was located on Cottage Grove. It used to be a 2-story single-family mansion with an attic and a basement. The new owners separated the floors and turned it into a 3-story apartment building. Strange things were always happening there. Unimaginable things. Things that couldn't be explained by science or plain logic. This place was pure hell and chaos, and it affected everybody that lived there. People that rented the second floor were always moving out in the dead of night. This building has since been torn down.
Hello guys, how are you today? I am back with another ghost story. I bought a new cordless mic, I guess it was last month, and I wanted to use it today. I charged the mic and forgot to charge the receiver. So anyway, I will talk as loud as I can. Now this story is a reflection of the past. Now in 1979, my family and I had moved twice. I was around 12 years old, and we lived in the back of a grocery store. And there was also an apartment upstairs, grocery store in the front, and in the back of the grocery store there was a first floor apartment and a second floor apartment. And my family and I lived on the first floor, and then of course we had neighbors on the second floor. Now these neighbors, they like to go out and party and drink and everything. They had family members that liked to do the same thing, and they would all hang out together. But the problem was they had a lot of kids. Each of them had kids, and they needed somebody to babysit, so that they could go out. So they asked my mom if I could babysit for them. My mom asked me, and I said yeah. They were cheap. I mean, it was about 5 or 6 kids. They were only paying $15 for, I don't know, I think it was about 3 hours. But anyway, I thought the money would help out, so I agreed to do it. So they took me over to one of the other family members' homes where all the kids were there. And they said they would only be gone like 3 hours and they would be back. So I said, okay. Well, as soon as the parents told the kids to be good, to mind what I said, you know, listen to me and everything, and they walked out the door, after they got in the car and drove off, the kids went crazy. They was running around the house, stripping the bedding off the bed, throwing it on the floor, jumping up and down on the bed like a trampoline. They were going into one of the other rooms, going into the closet, pulling stuff out the closet, and whatever they could find to play with, they would play with. Now keep in mind, these were not bad kids. It's just that they were so happy that the parents wasn't going to be monitoring them and you know, telling them to sit down and everything and to be quiet. You know, they was happy. But I was thinking to myself, if the parents come back and they see the house is a mess, they'll never hire me to babysit again. So I was trying to think of what can I do? So a voice came to me and said, tell them a story. So I'm thinking to myself, well, actually it was the Lord. You know how, like I said before, you know, something comes into your mind, a thought or whatever. And I said to myself, okay, that's a good idea. But I have so many stories to tell. I'm thinking, well, what story should I tell them that'll calm them down? So the second thing that came to mind that the Lord told me was tell him a ghost story. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, now that's a good idea. I'll tell him a ghost story. So I called all the kids in the room, in the bedroom, and I asked them, I said, do you want me to tell you a story? And of course, they, oh yeah, we want you to tell us a story. And I said, well, do you want me to tell you a ghost story? And they was intrigued. They was, oh yeah, we want to hear a ghost story. So I said, well, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. I said, now you don't have to make the bed or anything, but pick the sheets and stuff and the comforter and bedding and stuff off the floor, put it back on the bed. Everything that you took out the closet, put it back in the closet, and you come and sit down on the bed and I'll tell you guys a story, a ghost story. So they said, okay. It only took them about 5 minutes, maybe less, to get everything cleaned up. And while they was doing that, I bought a chair in and I set it right in front of the bed. Like the foot of the bed was here, and I put the chair in front of them, and everybody, all the kids lined up, sit down, and I sit in a chair. So now getting back to the house on Cottage Grove. Like I was explaining to you guys before, the house was designed like a shotgun house. There were windows in the front, on the right and left side, straight wall, and behind the straight wall that was on the left side of the apartment was where the bedrooms were. And of course there were pictures and stuff on the wall. My mom, she even had a picture of Jesus. I don't know where she got it from, but we had a lot of pictures and stuff on the wall. And the house, I mean, you couldn't play music in the house. The music wouldn't sound right. If you turned the TV on, it sounded weird. I mean, nothing there was really normal. But we as kids, we noticed stuff, and then we didn't notice stuff. And like I said, my mom and my oldest brother was the first to notice anything that was going on in the house. So when my brother, my oldest brother, when he didn't have to go to school, you know, we were all in the apartment and we were playing and everything. And I would be in the kitchen with my twin brother, and sometimes my mom's would be in the kitchen, and I would notice him just walking back and forth, like from the front room window and coming back toward the kitchen. And then sometimes he would stop and he would be looking around, you know, and sometimes he would like brush something off his shoulder, or you know, if he turned, he would jump. And it was always in a certain area on the wall that was where the first and second bedroom was. And then he would go in his room and he would do something, and then he'd come out, and this was almost like on a regular basis, and he would always stop you know, in one particular area, and then he would turn around facing the wall where the pictures and stuff was. Now, we couldn't, if we were in the kitchen, in a certain area of the kitchen, we couldn't really see exactly everything he was doing, but it was just something that we noticed. And so one day I walked up to him, because it was like he was so intrigued with this one area. So one day I walked up to him and I said, "What you doing?" He said, "I'm just standing here." And he was looking at all the pictures on the wall and the pictures of Jesus and everything. I said, I see you doing this all the time. why are you just standing in one place and you're pacing back and forth sometimes. You're walking from the front window to the kitchen and walking back from the kitchen door, where the kitchen entrance was, to the front window. I say, I either see you doing that, or I see you just standing here looking at the pictures on the wall. I say, you've seen those pictures on the wall 1,000 times. I don't understand, what's going on. And so he looks at me and he says, look at the pictures on the wall. So I turn and look at the pictures on the wall. Everything looks normal to me. He said, when you walk past the pictures, no matter what direction you're going in, he said, the eyes follow you. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He said, no. He said, when you're standing in one place, it looks like the eyes are looking, and the pictures are looking straight at you. And when you move, no matter what direction, if you move toward the front of the house, in the direction of the front, where the front door is, or you're moving toward the kitchen, the eyes follow you. Well, I thought he was joking, because sometimes my oldest brother, he liked to joke around a little bit. And if I haven't seen anything or noticed anything or witnessed anything, it's not that I didn't believe him, but it was just something new for me to hear. And he said, you don't believe me? I said, well, it's not that I don't believe you. He said, stand right here next to me. And he told me to look at this one particular picture. It was a lady and she was sitting down. It was a monochrome picture. The lady, it was like a grayish white, gray and white print. And he told me, he said, stand next to me. He said, and look at the lady in the picture. So I turned and I looked. And he said, don't it look like she's staring at you? And I didn't see it at first. And so I walked up on the picture to get a little bit closer. And I looked, and then I backed up a little bit. And I said, I don't see anything. He said, walk past and keep your eyes on the picture. Just walk past. Walk to the right of me and walk to the left of me and keep your eyes on the picture. So I did that, and sure enough, the eyes were following me if I walked to the left. Now, the lady in the picture did not move, so that's not what I'm saying. It was just her eyes. And she was a beautiful lady. She was like European. I can't think of the era, but she was so well put together. Her hair, even though it's monochrome, you could tell that her hair was nice and soft and silky and everything. And so I did what my brother said, and I started walking back and forth. And sure enough, the eyes were following me when I would walk, because like the wall is here and we're standing here in front of the wall. So walking this way would be toward the front door, and then walking back this way would be where the kitchen was. So I walked toward, not too far, because I needed to see her eyes. So I took a few steps toward the door, in the direction of the door, and I'm staring, and I could see her eyes move to, it would be the left. I'm moving to the right, but since the picture's on the wall, her eyes would move to the left. And then when I come back to the left, her eyes would move to the right. So I started getting scared. And so my oldest brother called my mom in the room. She was in the kitchen, and he told her the same thing. And my mom's thought he was joking too, and both of us was telling her, it's true. The lady in the picture, her eyes follow you. When you walk back and forth past the picture, her eyes follow you. And my mom said, well, I never noticed. I walk back and forth, and I never noticed anything. So we looked at each other. My brother and I looked at each other, and we left it alone. And then a couple days passed, and everything seemed like it was normal. And once in a while, if I was in the room by myself, in the living room by myself, I would just walk back and forth just to see if the same thing was going to happen again. Now, it didn't always happen where her eyes would move back and forth and follow you when you walk past. That particular time when my brother was telling me about it, I did see her eyes move back and forth, but when I went by myself, I didn't see her eyes move back and forth. So like I said, a few days later, I think my mom was in the kitchen, and my twin brother and I, we were playing in one of the rooms, and all of a sudden, my oldest brother starts screaming and hollering, she's gone, she's gone, she's gone. The lady stepped out the picture. She's gone, she's gone, she's gone. She's not in the picture. She stepped out the picture. We came in looking like, what is wrong with you? He said, look at the picture. The lady in the picture is gone. She stepped out the picture. She's gone. And we looked at the picture, and I'll be damned, there was no lady in the picture. The picture was completely blank. Completely blank. And we're looking at each other like we don't know what to do. And I asked my oldest brother, I'm like, did you see her step out the picture? He said, no, I didn't see her step out the picture, but I come like I always do and looking at the pictures on the wall, and she's gone. She's gone. So us kids, we started getting really scared and nervous and everything, and my mom's is trying to calm us down or whatever. And my mom, she just made a little cute joke about it. She said, well, if she stepped out the picture, she'll be back. And it's like she wasn't afraid at all. And so us kids didn't know how to take that. My oldest brother is frantic. Now my twin brother and I, we're frantic. And because my mom, she had the picture, I guess somebody gave her that picture before we were born or whatever. And when my mom said, don't worry, she'll be back, we didn't really know how to take it. But anyway, for the next few hours, we would keep going up and looking at the picture, to see if she came back. And of course, no, the picture was still empty. And then when we wasn't thinking about it, we checked again about maybe 2 or 3 hours later, and sure enough, the lady was back in the picture and she was sitting down. So we told my mom, and my mom came and looked. She said, I told you she'll be back. And my mom took all the pictures off the wall, and she packed them up in a box and sealed it. And she said, no more pictures on the wall. She took the mirrors down and everything. She said, no pictures, no mirrors on the wall, nothing. So when I finished telling the kids this ghost story, they're sitting there quiet as a mouse. And about a few minutes later, the parents came back, and when they came back to the house, they saw the kids sitting in one place and they was quiet. And they looked around the house and everything, and they didn't see anything out of place or torn up or thrown all over the place. And they looked at me, and one of the ladies looked at me and she said, what did you do to the kids? They're not running around. Normally when we go out and come back, the house is torn up and they're running around and everything, and we have to threaten to whoop them in order for them to calm down. I said, the kids didn't mess up the house this time. I said, those were good. I said, the kids were good. I said, they've been sitting here all along, and I've just been telling them a story, and they've been good kids. So they took me home, and they gave me the lousy $15. I guess back at that time, $15 was good, so I was thankful for it. I'm calling it lousy now because we're talking about 5 or 6 kids, but I was glad to get the $15, and they said thank you and everything, and they went back home. So the next day, one of the ladies came back, one of the mothers came back, and she said to me, she said, I don't know what you told, what story you told those kids, but they was quiet all night long. They went to bed on time. We didn't have to fuss and argue with them to go to bed and everything. They've been quiet. She said, I don't know what you did. She said, but whatever you did, it worked. And she asked me, she said, will you babysit again if we want to go out again? And I said, no ma'am. No ma'am, I'm not babysitting again. I said, I need to stay here, you know, in case my moms need me to help her do something. So that is the end of the story, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and that story is from one of the instances that happened at the Cottage Grove house. Right now I'm doing a series about the Cottage Grove house. There was a lot of things that happened there, and so I'm trying to remember everything so that I can, you know, make it an interesting story. But like I said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you come back, you know, to hear more, because it does get worse, and I would like you to come and join me. It gets worse. It gets way worse. But anyway, that's the end of the story, so I'm gonna cut this video off now. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. Please return. And I know I don't think I said it in the last video, so I'm gonna say it now. Let's work together to live better, and always thank you for watching.